The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of Lexington Community Radio or its board of directors. The views expressed are solely those of the programmers.
You are listening to Off the Cuff. Now, here's your host, Adam Banks.
Welcome, everybody, to Off the Cuff. I am Adam Banks, coming at you live from Lexington, Kentucky. Thank you for listening to the show, and thank you for tuning in to WLXU 93.9 FM. In addition to listening on the radio, you can check out our Facebook live stream at Off the Cuff with Adam Banks, or you could stream the show live from the station website at radiolex.us to listen to us from anywhere in the entire world. I am broadcasting from the Deborah Hensley Studios here at Radio Lex on North Limestone. It is September the 12th, 2024. And ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, we are less than 2 months away from Election Day, November the 5th, as a matter of fact, and we are gaining closer and closer to that fateful day when everybody gets out and vote. And remember, folks, it is your duty, not necessarily your right, to go out and vote. You, as an American, have a duty to go out and let your voice be heard. And you really need to know the facts about the candidates. Election season is in full swing, so I plan on bringing on some politicians on the show. So I do want to say, if there are any politicians out there that would like to be a guest on Off the Cuff with Adam Banks, please reach out to our station or reach out to me, and I would love to set you down for an interview. I've got Ryan Stanford is the only politician I've got booked coming on the show, and he will be coming on at the end of September. He is running for state representative in the Jessamine County area. But folks, I want to book a lot more politicians on the show. So if you are interested, please reach out. I plan on reaching out to a few myself. But folks, the second presidential debate happened this week, and it happened this past Tuesday, and I call it the second presidential debate because if you remember, the first presidential debate was a little earlier, but it had a different candidate involved in that debate. It was between Donald Trump and our current sitting president, Joe Biden. But we had our second official presidential debate, but the first presidential debate between these two candidates, Donald Trump and the new candidate, Kamala Harris, who is the sitting vice president. And what I would like to do, folks, is just kind of talk about that debate, and it was definitely one for the books. It was must-see TV. I think everybody was eager to see what that debate would be like, and from the jump, it started off kind of, you could cut the tension with a knife with the intros.
Kamala Harris, let's have a good debate.
See you. Have fun.
Thank you.
Welcome to you both. It's wonderful to have you. It's an honor to have you both here.
It was just something, the way Kamala Harris walked across the stage and extended her hand out to Donald Trump. That was the first time we've seen a handshake between two candidates in over 4 years. If you remember, Joe Biden and Donald Trump never shook hands, and it looked like that Trump wasn't excited to shake Kamala's hand, but she marched right over there and shook his hand and said, let's have a good debate. And it seemed to start off a little civil, but you could tell there was some tension in the room, most certainly. It was moderated by David Muir, who I feel like is the best news anchor on the air right now, and by Lindsay Davis. I don't know who she is. I'm assuming she works for ABC. Lovely lady, but the two did a very good job moderating the debate. Of course, it was moderated by ABC, and they were the ones that provided the moderators. But after the two introduced one another, and after the two came out and said hello to one another, they started off the debate talking about what I feel like is one of the most important things to talk about in our country, and that's our economy.
Tonight,
Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century.
Okay, so she says that Donald Trump left us with a bad economy. Now, if you remember back in 2020, that's when the pandemic happened. Donald Trump was out of office just, 7 months later? And it was because of that pandemic, the first of its kind in decades, the economy really did suffer. But I don't think it's fair to throw all of that on our former president when the last 4 years has been unbearable for Americans to afford a pack of bread or a gallon of milk. You ask any American who goes to the grocery store today, they get nervous. They get worried that they're not going to be able to afford such a high bill at the grocery store. So to put it all on Donald Trump, I think was a cheap move, because it certainly isn't all on him.
You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there. She has.
They also had a little spat over the rallies, as you just heard. It was one of the only times that they really kind of spat back and forth and made cheap shots towards each other. Of course, there was more than that, but it was just funny the way they spatted over the rallies. And the next thing that they talked about was gun ownership. Trump claimed that Kamala Harris was coming to take your guns.
Has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she has a plan.
Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff.
So you heard it there from the horse's mouth. She said that she is not planning on coming to take anybody's gun away. So when that argument gets said, and you hear it a lot, oh, so-and-so is wanting to take your guns. Well, did you hear it come out of the horse's mouth? Kamala just said that, no, we're not coming for your guns, no matter how you want to say it, no matter how many times you want to lie about it. It's not happening. Now, if she turns around and does decide to come for your guns, just replay the clip. It would be a bold-faced lie at that point. The next thing they discussed, or one of the next things they discussed, was race, Kamala's race. As a matter of fact, it was, that whole controversy on what race is Kamala? Is she Indian? Is she black? They talked about that.
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black.
I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people.
Abortion was also a big hot topic, as it is with every debate.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
Okay, first of all, I forgot about the whole eating the dogs, eating the cats. That was a claim that former President Trump was making, that immigrants were eating the dogs and the cats of some American citizens. The ABC did something that no network had ever done. They fact-checked Donald Trump from the stage. Now, they said they reached out to the mayor of Springfield, and the mayor said that was not true. There was nobody that reported a crime of anybody eating any cats or any dogs. But Trump went on to say that some people got on TV and said that. That would be horrible. And listen, folks, the first thing that I thought of when they said that was the big boss man cooking Al Snow's dog and feeding it to him in a hotel room on a Thursday night SmackDown taping. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it is on the network. But yes, they did talk next about abortion.
You talk about extreme.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
One does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted?
She hates.
The next thing was really discussed was the fact that Trump accused Kamala of hating Israel.
Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war.
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now.
I laughed at the fact when Kamala was asked a lot about policy.
First of all,
said
they bought
this.
their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And
I also thought it was pretty hilarious when Trump used Kamala's line against her when he said, "I'm talking now." Do you remember the whole thing when Kamala Harris would keep interrupting Mike Pence, or whenever Mike Pence would try to interrupt her, she would look at Mike Pence and say, "I'm speaking, I'm speaking." Well, she tried to interrupt Trump, and Trump used her own words against her.
Fracking? She's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police. She's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar? She went out.
Yes, I appreciated that he actually used that against her. She always used that as some sort of a power move when she would use that against Mike Pence. I'm speaking, and it was just great to see it used against her. She wanted to also remind Trump several times that she was not Joe Biden because he kept bringing up Joe Biden, but she kept reminding him that she was not Joe Biden.
First of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up.
You know, she says that she's not Joe Biden, but it's hard to detach yourself from Joe Biden and his policies when you are on the same ticket as him. Kamala, you are the vice president. When people talk about the Biden administration, they don't just say the Biden administration. They say the Biden-Harris administration. So the fact that she kept saying that she's not Joe Biden was just kind of silly to me. But the two kind of ended the debate with these closing remarks.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past.
She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it?
And there you go. And that, folks, was the 2024 second presidential debate, the first between those two candidates. It was interesting when Kamala said that Donald Trump was fired by 81 million voters, and that was the number that voted for President Joe Biden in 2020. It was kind of a little shot at the former president. And to top it off, at the end of the debate, Kamala Harris kind of got a boost when pop icon Taylor Swift posted on Instagram that she was backing the Democratic ticket, and she signed her post, Taylor Swift, the childless cat lady, which was a reference to the controversial comment by Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance. And people who don't think that's effective, that Taylor Swift said that, oh, how naive are you? There's a lot of people younger, I'm talking about the younger generation, who will vote for who their favorite celebrity tells them to vote for. I mean, if Stone Cold Steve Austin told me who to vote for at 18 years old, I probably would have listened. I was not the sharpest, wisest person at 18 years old, so I didn't really have opinions or beliefs for myself. I went on basically who my favorite star wanted, and I'm sure a lot of kids, a lot of 18, 19, and a lot of people in their 20s do the same thing. So I do think it was a boost when Taylor Swift got on there and said that. But that, folks, was the 2024 debate. We have a great show ahead of you today. Stick with us. You are listening to Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. We will be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you. Ryan Seacrest officially takes over as the host of Wheel of Fortune. He officially took over as host this past Monday, September the 9th. He's been hosting all week. Ryan Seacrest definitely brings a change on your television screen, but he says that he will not reinvent the Wheel of Fortune game that we all know and love, but there still will be a slight change to get used to, and that is obviously not seeing Pat Sajak there. We're just going to have to get used to Ryan, folks. We will. Just like we did Drew Carey, we didn't think that anybody could replace the iconic Bob Barker, and let's be honest, nobody will ever replace him. But Drew has proved himself over the last 20 years to be a great host, and I think Ryan Seacrest will do the same thing. I don't know why anybody would be against Ryan Seacrest being the host of Wheel of Fortune. He's a likable guy. People seem to like him. He's good with contestants. He's got a lot of energy. And think about it like this. If Ryan Seacrest wasn't hosting, we would have some other joker in there hosting. And I promise you, he probably is not going to be somebody that we would like, because we would say he's not Pat Sajak. At least Ryan, America already knows, America's already used to. But it's definitely going to be a change to turn on the television screen and see Ryan Seacrest with Vanna White hosting Wheel of Fortune. Like I said, he has been hosting all week, but let's go back to his very first episode this past Monday. Take a listen.
And now, together for the first time, here are the stars of our show, Ryan Seacrest and Vanna White.
Very much. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Welcome to the show.
So happy to be here.
Happy to have you.
Let's have fun.
Let's do it.
Okay. Hi. Good to see you, too. Welcome. Nice to have you. Welcome to Wheel of Fortune. I am your host, Ryan Seacrest. I still can't believe my luck in being here with you tonight to continue this legacy of this incredible show with all of you. And of course, my good friend Vanna White. Thank you for the very warm welcome. Hosting Wheel of Fortune is a dream job. I've been a fan of this show since I was a kid watching it in Atlanta with my family, and I know how special it is that Wheel has been in your living rooms for the past 40 years. And I'm just so grateful to be invited in. I also know I've got some very big shoes to fill. So let's play Wheel of Fortune.
Interesting, he didn't mention Pat Sajak during his opening monologue, but I can get why he didn't. A lot of people kind of want to be out with the old and in with the new, but it's a very tough speech to give on your first show. You don't want to be too long. You don't want to bore everybody at home. You don't want to be long-winded, because at the end of the day, people tune into Wheel of Fortune to watch the game and to play the game. And Ryan Seacrest, I think favorably, has been going over well with fans, and you could catch him this week. But it's definitely different seeing somebody else host Wheel of Fortune. And Ryan Seacrest, he's been doing a slew of interviews since taking over the hosting duties of Wheel of Fortune. And one of the questions that he was asked was to list off all of the current jobs that he has, because keep in mind, he has more than just the hosting duties of Wheel of Fortune. The man doesn't sleep. He does a lot. And he lists them out. And take a listen for yourself of what all Ryan Seacrest does. You think you have a lot of jobs. Listen at his.
Can you please list the jobs that you currently have?
Let's start with the beginning of the year. New Year's Eve, the ball drops, that starts the year.
It is 12 degrees, and it feels like 0.
American Top 40.
This one, new on the chart at 32.
On air with Ryan Seacrest in the mornings on KISS FM.
7:39 in the morning.
And then syndicated across the country. American Idol and Wheel of Fortune. And then some specials here and there.
Wheel of Fortune.
There you go. I mean, talk about a lot of jobs. And he failed to mention he also owns a production company that hosts shows like The Kardashians and a plethora of E-red carpet shows and a bunch of shows on E. So he does a lot. Now, a lot of people wonder, is this peak Ryan Seacrest? Has Ryan Seacrest hit his peak? And this is what he says.
Do you feel like you now have reached peak Ryan Seacrest and do not need to take on any more jobs?
I don't know if I've reached peak me, but I feel like I've reached, for the moment, fully occupied me. I don't think I should take on another job right now. I want this one to go so well. I want all of them to go well, but this one's new, and I want this one to be something that people go, okay, you know what? I get it. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think that he needs to chill out on taking jobs. If you take on too many, you can't devote a lot of time and effort into the current jobs that you have. But I like Ryan Seacrest. He's from Atlanta, Georgia. I like him because he's a radio guy. And if you ask him, he would give you the same answer that I would give you, regardless of the mediums that you're on, whether it's hosting a famous game show like Wheel of Fortune or you're hosting a famous talk show like Kelly and Ryan. He will still say his favorite thing to do out of all of that is radio, because folks, there's just something special about this medium. There is something intimate, there is something amazing, there is something that nothing can offer like radio does. It's just such a personable medium that the host has with his audience. So I can understand why he says radio is still his favorite. So anytime a radio guy gets success, I am here for it. I love that, and I root for that. But if you want to check out Ryan Seacrest on Wheel of Fortune, all you have to do is tune in to CBS, and he comes on in your living room every day, Monday through Friday at 7 o'clock. But folks, we still have lots more off the cuff coming your way after these words. Stick with us.
5, 6, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you. Let's take a look at the show thread. Let's see what's happening on there. Kathy says, hey there, it's been a while. It has, Kathy. Good to see you. Valerie says, that was hilarious. I think she typed that when I was talking about Trump clapping back at Kamala over her I'm speaking now. Valerie says, let's hear who Kid Rock is voting for. Yes, he would be the conservative version of Taylor Swift with celebrities. Folks, who you are hearing in the background right now is Chappell Roan, who took home Best New Artist at last night's VMA Awards. The MTV Video Music Awards used to be the most iconic award show for musicians, and a lot of people will hear that and say that's nonsense. That would be the Grammys. Now, the Grammys is the most respected and revered music award show out there, but the VMAs, back in the day, it used to be the one and only award show for musicians where they could get together, party, have a good time, let their hair down, and not be taken so serious like they do at the Grammys. MTV is certainly not what it used to be, and sadly but true, neither is the VMAs. I mean, we have had some iconic moments at the VMAs, and we've discussed some iconic moments at the VMAs in our archives. Some include, Britney Spears coming out and dancing with the snake, Lady Gaga and her meat dress, Madonna and Britney Spears making out on the stage, Michael Jackson receiving the Generational Pop Award. We've seen a ton of performers do their most iconic performance at the VMAs, but it just really sucks to know that the VMAs is not as great as it once was. This was the show's 40th anniversary, so they paid homage to a lot of past iconic moments. They did several throwback clips throughout the show showing some of the biggest moments of the VMAs. The big award of the night was the Vanguard Award, which went to Katy Perry, whose new album would be out on September the 20th. Taylor Swift set some records at this year's awards. She won the most awards of the night with 7 and tied with Beyonce for most wins by an artist with 30 awards. In addition to her Video of the Year win, she became the first artist to win Artist of the Year award twice. The last time she won it was last year at the 2023 awards. Now, I have posted on our Off the Cuff with Adam Banks Facebook page the complete list of winners, but I would like to go over some of the major awards given out for the night. The Video of the Year obviously went to Taylor Swift for her song Fortnite. Artist of the Year was Taylor Swift. Song of the Year was Sabrina Carpenter with Espresso. Best New Artist was Chappell Roan, who you just heard. Best Collab was Taylor Swift and Post Malone for Fortnite. Best Pop was Taylor Swift. Best Hip Hop Artist was Eminem. Best R&B was SZA. Best Alternative was Benson Boone with Beautiful Things. And Best Rock was, why do I have Best Rock but no Best Rock winner? Somebody took home Best Rock. There was also a category for the 40th anniversary that was introduced. It was called the VMA's Most Iconic Performance, and it went to Katy Perry for Roar. Now, I don't necessarily see that as being the most iconic performance from all of the VMA moments. They said that that was the most iconic performance of all the VMAs in the past. Now, I get it. The VMAs is voted on by the people, but come on now. People from my generation must have not have been watching. And I get Katy Perry is from my generation, but are you forgetting some of the past iconic moments? Like the real Slim Shady coming out with 100 different duplicates of him singing the I'm Slim Shady, Please Stand Up. What about the Paparazzi performance by Lady Gaga, or the Like a Virgin performance by Madonna, or the You Belong With Me performance by Taylor Swift? There was so many different iconic performances. I talked about the Britney Spears performance with the snake. Or what about the performance where Missy Elliott, Britney Spears, and Christina Aguilera and Madonna all performed together? There was a ton of performances that could have beat the Katy Perry Roar, but that seemed to be the one that everybody liked. But the VMAs, folks, wasn't what it used to. It was hosted. It wasn't what it used to be. It was hosted by the Megan Thee Stallion. So that's what the award show basically did. Linnell says on the show they thought for sure your show would be all about the debate and what was up with that. Well, Linnell, I did cover the debate in the first segment of the show, so you can go back and listen to all debate conversations in the first part of the show, or you can check it out on podcast when I post the show. But that, folks, was the VMAs, and that seems like a good place to stop to take Off the Cuff's Song of the Week break. And the song that I would like to play for you guys is the guy who won for Best Alternative, and that is Benson Boone with his song Beautiful Thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, sit back, relax, and enjoy Benson Boone with Beautiful Things. We'll be back after the song.
December, I want you, I need you, oh God.
We are going to talk about Kentucky's travesty of a football game that happened last Saturday. But before we get to that, I do want to talk about something that happened right after the football game last Saturday. There was a shooting on a Kentucky interstate, and it was around my neck of the woods in eastern Kentucky. It says here that police from multiple agencies have been searching in Laurel County for accused shooter Joseph Couch, who is 32 years old. They believe that he is armed and dangerous still yet. The hunt is still on the last time I checked for this man. Last Saturday, 5 people were injured and 12 vehicles were damaged in an alleged shooting near exit 49 on Interstate 75 near London, Kentucky. Joseph Couch was initially considered a person of interest after authorities found a vehicle registered in his name nearby. He was named a suspect on Sunday. Laurel County Dispatch received a call, listen at this, in the evening from someone saying that she had received a text from Joseph Couch advising that he was going to kill a lot of people. And an emergency cell site tracker was placed on his cell phone, which pinged him near exit 49 just over an hour after shots were fired. I could not believe this when I heard it. I shouldn't say I couldn't believe it, because it seems like that's just the climate that we're living in these days. It seems like that a lot of people are trigger happy, and a lot of mental illness is with a lot of people, and a lot of people with mental illness are able to go out and buy guns and do things like this. They said that they learned that he purchased a Cobalt AR-15 rifle with a Holosun sight and 1,000 rounds of ammunition on the same day of the shooting. And authorities have been searching the Daniel Boone National Forest for Joseph Couch since Saturday, but it is still an all hands-on-deck situation. They have not found him. Listen, the woods and in the mountains of eastern Kentucky, there are nooks and crannies to where they'll never be able to find him if he knows his way around those parts. Listen, I grew up in eastern Kentucky. I grew up in the head of a holler, and I promise you this, there are places that I could go that you would never find me. You would never find me. If I didn't want you to find me, you never would. There's places in my holler, there's places in other people's hollers. Those mountains, there are places that nobody knows, and nobody knows how to get around. I went four-wheeler riding last summer, or this past summer, and I got lost in the mountains. And I keep in mind you, I have lived there for years. I lived there 18 years before I moved away and moved to Lexington. But somebody who lived there 18 years, who knew the trails and the back roads, still got lost. Still. So you imagine dropping somebody off in the mountains, leaving them up there, and telling them to find their way home. They couldn't do it. And if Joseph Couch knows these woods, he knows the area, and I'm assuming he somewhat knows the area. Maybe it was a part of his plan to escape after the shooting up in those mountains. If he knows the area, they're going to have a very difficult time to find him, finding him. That's assuming he is still alive. If he is dead, then nature will take care of its own. So if he does die up in the woods, that's just what happens. Nature will just take care, and nature will do what it does. There is a $35,000 reward out there if they do find Couch. Law enforcement officials encourage the community to continue coming forward with any tips that may help. Multiple agencies are involved with the manhunt, so it's not just the Kentucky State Police. It's multiple agencies looking for this man. They don't look for him at night. I'm thinking that they're just saying that it's pointless to look for him in such a complex area, because the woods, folks, I can't emphasize enough how complex the mountains and the woods are. One guy says that he hopes he doesn't have water. This was from a Kentucky State Police trooper, Scotty Pennington. He says, I hope he doesn't have water, and I hope he doesn't have food, and I hope he's just plumb worn out, and eventually he just walks out of the woods. Yes, one could hope. Now, they say, one guy says they've chosen to close down schools for precautions. So there we go. I don't really know why. I don't know if schools would be a target. I don't know if I necessarily agree with closing down the schools because there is a shooter on the loose who shot at cars on the interstate. I don't know. I'm not a superintendent. I'm not on the Board of Education. I don't make those calls. But there are several schools that have shut down their schools for the safety. So I'm not sure if they did that because there was a tip that maybe a school was his next situation of what he wanted to do. I don't know. But if you do have any information, please report it to the police. They're going to have a hard time finding him. If he stays up in the mountains, they're going to have a hard time finding him. If they do catch him, it will be because he either walks out of the woods because of hunger and thirst, or they find him because he ended up dying, and nature will take care of its own business. But can you imagine how scary it would be to be up in those mountains by yourself? I have been in those mountains, not completely by myself at night, and it is really freaky. I don't think I could stay up in the mountains of Eastern Kentucky by myself. The sounds alone are very, very eerie. There are coyotes like nobody's business. There are bears like nobody's business. And here's the thing, we don't know what all is up in those mountains. We just kind of assume that we know what's in those mountains because we see things on the surface. It's just like the ocean, folks. We don't know really what's in the ocean, and we really don't know what's up those mountains. So he's fighting a losing battle. You can't live up in the mountains forever. You can't live up in the mountains forever. And for him to be gone as long as he has, it tells me that he has had this plan for a long time, and he's camped out somewhere, or he's already dead. But I don't know. If you do find out information, please let somebody know as quick as you can of how they can find him, and give the police any tips that you have. All right, folks, if you are a video gamer, today is your day. Today is National Video Game. The earliest video games began in the 1950s in universities like the University of Cambridge and MIT. Some games that came out of these universities were Virtual Tic-Tac-Toe and Space War. The first home console was designed in 1967 by Ralph Baer when he created the classic Atari. Do you guys remember the Atari? And of course, after that is when Nintendo took over, and then we had PlayStation, Xbox, Sega, and so on. The first video game ever created was called NEM, and it was introduced to the world at a fair by Edward Condon. In 1977 is when the first Atari was released. In 1989, the first Game Boy was released, and that was pretty innovative because that is when you could take a console outside of your house and play Nintendo games in your car. I bet parents really loved that. It was kind of the 80s way of saying, here's your iPad. In 2010, though video gaming as a sport had existed since the 90s, it had taken off in 2010, becoming a viable sport and a way to make money for many gamers. So a lot of people, if you're a big gamer and you feel like that's just a wasted talent to have, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Video games can make you money. According to a study, it says here that everybody's favorite gaming console of all time is PlayStation with 38%. Second is Xbox with 38%, so it's tied there. And Nintendo comes in at third at 21%. What's the best video game franchise? According to a survey, here are the top 10. Super Mario Brothers, Call of Duty, Donkey Kong, Grand Theft Auto, Pokemon, Zelda, Sonic the Hedgehog, Final Fantasy, Halo, and Crash Bandicoot is what people say are the best video games out there. Here are some mind-blowing facts about video games. In an attempt to get children and teens more interested in books, libraries across the country have started adding video games to their shelves. In one study, adults who played Super Mario 64 for 2 hours a day developed increased brain volume over time. According to one study, those who play video games are more likely to have lucid dreams where they can control what is happening. After Nokia's downfall, Finland's economy was greatly assisted by Clash of Clans, and in 2019, a boy from the U.S. won the largest single-person esport payout Guess what his payout was? $3 million. So there could be money in video games if you're good for it. 360,000 is the number of arcade cabinets of the game Space Invaders sold by 1980. 80,000 is the amount spent by a Japanese man on playing Space Invaders. 40 million is the number of copies sold of Super Mario Brothers by the game's 25th anniversary. 3 is the number of discs that held the Final Fantasy IV game on PlayStation. 56 is the number of vehicles drivable in Grand Theft Auto 3. 3 is the number of days it took Grand Theft Auto 5 to reach $1 billion in sales. It only took 3 days to make $1 billion in sales for Grand Theft Auto 5. And to me, Grand Theft Auto 3 was a lot better than 5. 13 is the number of novels written on the Halo universe. 12 million is the number of subscribers to the World of Warcraft in 2012. 7 is the number of players originally limited to a football team in Madden Football due to hardware restrictions. 92 is the number of production babies who joined the Bungie family in the game Destiny since 2010. If you're looking for ways to celebrate National Video Game Day, you could round up some friends for some in real life gaming. None of this online nonsense. Some of the best ways to bond with your peers and your friends is to get together and play video games with each other in real life. Another way you could celebrate it is to hit an arcade to relive some of the classics like, I don't know, Ping Pong and Donkey Kong and Pac-Man. And then finally, you could treat yourself to a new video game release. So happy National Video Game, everybody. But folks, we still have one more segment to go. Stick with us. We will be right back.
I got a whole lot of money. Y'all it for me. Bottle keep popping that water, man. Jacking. It's a party.
Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you. Last segment of the hour. It is certainly not a party in Lexington for the University of Kentucky's football team as they lost. Not just lost, but got completely obliterated by South Carolina. Kentucky only scored 6 points in that game, not one touchdown. Everybody was excited to watch Kentucky play their first SEC opponent, but not so much after the game. But before I get on the game, let me just grieve my frustrations with DirecTV. DirecTV, over the last couple of weeks, has blocked out all of ESPN's channels and ABC. So I have not been able to watch any of the great sports games on the biggest weekend in football, thanks to DirecTV. I had to borrow the credentials of my friend to log into his Spectrum to do that. So, DirecTV, get it together. The fact that you are that greedy to pay Disney what they want for their sports channels when everybody else is paying it, because it's greed. It all boils down to greed. DirecTV, I feel not sorry for you at all, and I hope you lose 1 billion customers because of this. How are you going to make up for it? Give everybody a month of free service? If you do that, you were better off just paying Disney what they wanted. Because how much is that going to cost you? Probably a lot, because you screw a lot of people over with your pricing monthly. But the Wildcats lost 31-6 against South Carolina. UK dropped to 1-1 overall in the for their record, and they start off the season 0-1 in the SEC. If you guys remember, not so long ago, in the year 2022, I was a guest on Pin It Deep podcast. It's a KSR podcast hosted by Max Duffy, who is a former punter for the University of Kentucky, and Miles Butler, who was also a punter for the University of Kentucky. Those two guys who I think a lot of, I do think a lot of those guys, but they had me on their show to talk about Mark Stoops, and they wanted me to explain my logic on why I felt like that he wasn't good for the program and why Stoops needed to be gone. My, how the tables have turned And my, how it just seems everybody is now swinging in my favor of Stoops getting fired as the coach. Stoops has hit his ceiling at the University of Kentucky, and really, folks, he has done nothing for this program, and I will die on that hill saying that. He has not done anything. And I know a lot of people will say, well, what about the 2 9-10-win seasons that he had? Okay, I understand that. But does that alone, winning 9 games in a season, including a bowl, does that constitute all of this praise, all of this money, all of this worship that he gets? And when I say worship, yes, I mean worship. It wasn't too long ago that everybody wanted to build a statue of that man and put it out in front of the stadium. Why? Because he won 9 games in a season? Why? Because he beat Florida, which is arguably Florida's darkest times in the program's history of that program. Is that all you got to hang your hat on? It wasn't the fact that it was that I wasn't happy that we beat Florida, or I wasn't happy that we won 9 games in a season a couple of times, but he has been here 12 seasons, and that's all he's done. That's all he's done. Had a couple, 1 or 2 9-win seasons, and that's it. He's won 4 bowls in 12 years. He's beaten Florida 3 or 4 out of 7 times. Here is Stoops can never win a big game. He is 0-11 against Georgia. He is 0-3 against Ole Miss. He is 0-3 against Alabama. He is 0-2 against Auburn. He is 2-9 against Tennessee. He is 4-7 against Florida. A losing record to all of those major SEC programs, and you guys want to hang a statue up of him. You guys want to call him the greatest coach in the history of college football. People cannot quit comparing him to Joker Phillips. Stop doing that. Yes, Joker was worse. Yes, Joker was worse. But you can't say that Stoops is so great because Joker was so bad. Rich Brooks was so much better than Mark Stoops. Rich Brooks actually had us ranked in the top 5. Rich Brooks actually beat a number 1 team. Did you know Mark Stoops has never beaten a number 1 team? Rich Brooks has. Rich Brooks could actually win a big game. Georgia would play. If Rich Brooks was our coach, guess what? There was always that possibility that we could win because he did it a couple of times. Stoops can never do it. The only major big game that he has ever won, I would say, would be the fact that he probably beat Louisville last year when they were ranked in the top 10. They were ranked number 9. Stoops is 2-18 against ranked teams in the top 10. He's never been ranked number 1, never been ranked in the top 5, was only in the top 10 for a week, and that's after, that whole Florida win. Everybody's got a hype on we beat Florida. Yeah, Florida's pretty bad, and I don't know if you've noticed that. But the Cats will play the number 1 team in the land, Georgia Bulldogs, this Saturday at 7:30 at Kroger Field. And you know what they say, 12th time's a charm. So, hey, maybe he'll make it 1-11 this Saturday. I don't know. I mean, it's just one of those things, folks. It's just so frustrating, the fact that he is still with us. And the fact that he is still our coach, it blows my mind. But it's neither here nor there. If you want to check out the game, that will be on at 7:30. I'll plan on watching it, and I'll be rooting. But hey, folks, if he does pull it off, and he wins against the Georgia Bulldogs, and it makes him 1-11, that doesn't mean we go out and erect a statue of the man. No, that's not what that means. But that's neither here nor there. Folks, that pretty much wraps up another episode of Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. If you liked what you heard today, you'll probably like our previous episodes. We release new episodes every Thursday from 4 to 5 right here on WLXU 93.9 FM. If you want to listen to all of our previous episodes, we have them archived on podcast, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you stream your favorite podcast. You can follow the show on social media at The Adam Banks, or Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. You can follow me, the host, on social media at The Adam Banks. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be back same time, same place next week. I am Adam Banks, the King of Radio, and this is Off the Cuff. I will catch you down the road.